There's a lot of noise going on, girls. Do we have eggs? I should be there shortly. Because today is the day. It's the Tomato Taste Showdown. Hello and welcome back to our Newdig Norfolk garden. First of all, I need to say a really big thank you to all of you that took the trouble to vote on our poll. And the results are in. In our viewers poll, actually Sungold topped the poll. 42% of you thought that Sungold was the best tasting tomato. After that came Honeycomb. 25% of you said that you enjoyed the taste of that the best. Then came Sweet Million. 15% of you said that you enjoyed that the best. Then Coeur de Boeuf. 10% of you said you enjoyed the taste of that tomato best. And last, but not least, was the Red Cherry. That came in with 7% of the votes. So I thought to myself, now we know what you guys think, we need to let you know what we think. So we're going to start with Black Cherry. So let's harvest some of those, Mrs. W. It's actually quite nice to grow these because they are a different colour.
They're not black. I was expecting them to be a darker colour. They are still a bit red. There's a sort of red tinge, sort of a bit brown looking, aren't they?
Yeah, but nevertheless, it is nice to see a contrast in colours. This truss looks like it's finished, Mrs. W.
Okay, have that off there then.
So
Good.
let's have you there.
Yep.
Next we're going to harvest some Sungold. Now let's not forget that this came top of the viewers' poll. What I would say is that it was ready the earliest, wasn't it, Mrs. W?
Yes, it was. Yep, they were the very first ones that we had to ripen.
Which was very welcome. We've been enjoying these Sungold. Must be for a couple of months now, mustn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
The next one I'm going to harvest is some Moneymaker. Now I have to say, Moneymaker are Mrs. W's go-to tomato for tomato sandwiches for lunch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they do actually produce really quite well, don't they?
They do, yes. Yeah, good view on that plant there.
That there is. Next, the Coeur de Boeuf. Now we do have some tomatoes on this that are still green, but we did actually harvest some the other day, so we've got some back down at the house, haven't we, Mrs. W?
We have, yes, yeah.
What I will say, for a grafted plant, hasn't actually given us that many tomatoes yet, has it?
No, it hasn't.
What we've had have been really nice, but hasn't given us that many tomatoes. And usually when you have a grafted plant, you invest in that because it should give you the harvest that you want. So Sweet Million. These have been producing really well, haven't they, Mrs. W?
Yes, they have been quite prolific actually, haven't they?
Oh, yes. And the next plant is a Roma. They don't look as large as our San Marzano, do they, Mrs.
No.
W? And as yet, we're still waiting for them to ripen.
There's a lot of green leaf, but not a lot of fruits.
Yeah. But, hey-ho, they will ripen eventually. I'm sure they're going to taste fantastic. Then next door to that Roma plant is Shirley. Now, I have to say, Mrs. W, these look very much akin to the moneymaker.
Yes, similar size.
But
So,
the question is, do they taste as good? We've got a couple of cucumbers ready as well, Mrs. W.
oh yeah,
Look.
we'll have those quickly.
While we're here, let's have those. The lovely Passandra.
They're a lovely cucumber, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, I really like those.
And they
We're
do.
now starting to get some on the market more as well.
Yeah. And they do go very, very well with tomato.
Absolutely.
Just before we actually harvest some of the outdoor tomatoes, these sunflowers have been amazing, haven't they?
They have.
The bees have absolutely loved them.
Yeah, they really have.
And they don't leave them alone. Same with the cosmos, Mrs. W. Really have enjoyed the cosmos.
Yes, first time I've grown cosmos. So pretty.
Now what I have done is just got a separate container for the outdoor ones, just so that we know what came from outdoors. And on first glance, you can see that, yes, there are tomatoes there. So yes, you can successfully grow tomatoes outside. We had that question earlier on in the year from some viewers that don't have undercover growing structures. But what you can see is that they're much later to develop, and they're smaller, and there's not so many. So maybe a lesson there, if you are going to be growing them outside, is to maybe grow several plants so that you can maximise your harvest. Now hopefully the weather is going to stay lovely for us through the rest of August into September and the early part of October, and we shall get these to ripen and get some nice harvest from these. Whatever, we've taken the tips out, as we sort of said during our August top tips, so the plant will no longer be growing upwards. Hopefully it will concentrate all of his efforts into ripening the tomatoes that are on the vine. And it does seem to be working, because most of these were green a week or so ago, weren't they?
Yes, yeah.
So it just goes to show you that it does work. Now this plant here, this was a gardener's delight, wasn't it, Mrs. W?
Yes, yeah.
Now I happen to know that they are a really nice tomato.
I only had one plant of that, and that, so obviously we haven't grown any of those undercover, so I can't do the comparison to the undercover variety for that one. But the next one along is Moneymaker.
It was it?
Yes, that one was a Moneymaker.
And this was one of your favourites, red cherry, wasn't
Yes,
it?
you can tell that's my favourite, because you can see all of the stems that have got missing tomatoes that I've eaten. All the little stalks off them.
And these red cherry just produce,
Masses, don't they?
yeah, don't they just? Ailsa Craig. Now these have grown really nice, and actually these look a lot like the Moneymaker as well, don't they, Mrs.
Yeah, if
W?
anything, I think they're slightly bigger.
But we'll see what they taste like. No sign of blossom end rot, which is good, Mrs. W.
No, that is very good.
Now the honeycomb, in our poll with you, the viewers, came second. What did we think of them? I would say there's lots of them, Mrs. W.
Yes, they're
Just like the red cherry.
quite prolific, aren't they?
Yeah, the trusses are producing really very nicely.
Another nice sort of orangey yellow colour.
Yeah. Next I want to harvest a San Marzano. We have one of those that's ready. There are several that are now coming ready. There we are. We've grown this for a number of years now.
Yes, we
haven't
like this one, don't we? Yeah.
And it does work really well when you're making your tomato sauces. And I just wanted to quickly show you the super sauce. Or are they apples, Mrs. W?
They do look like apples, don't they? They are quite large.
Now
I
you'll-
harvested a couple of those the other day because they were ready, so that they're in the fridge indoors, so we'll have a look at those when we go in.
Yes, most definitely.
So you join us here in our No Dig Norfolk kitchen, and we're going to just have a quick look at the varieties that we've managed to harvest this year of tomatoes. Super selection we've had too. We usually only grow 4 varieties, don't we? So this is an added bonus, a little extra bonus for us, and I'm glad we've done it because there's some definite favourites that I've taken from here that I didn't have before. So let's have a start with the winner of the poll, which was the Sun Gold. Let's take one of those. They're not right a tiny cherry tomato, but they are a cherry tomato. Cut it in half, and you can see there's some nice seeds. I'm going to have a little taste of this one, which I already know I like. And they are so sweet and so juicy. That is a keeper for me, definitely. We will definitely be growing that next year, Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
Second in the poll were the honeycomb, which are new to us too this year. Let's have a look at that. Doesn't appear to be quite so many seeds in this one, but it's a nice firm tomato. That one has a little bit more of a tang, a sweet tang is what I would say. Very nice. I do lean a little bit to the tangy sort of side of tomatoes, but very, very nice tomato. Third in our poll were the Sweet Million, and they're a definite nice, quite a deep red colour, I think, when they're properly ripened.
I think they look lovely.
They do, don't they?
And I actually quite like the taste of those ones.
Yes. So let's have a look at that one. Oh, a lot of seeds in there, look. Nice and juicy. If anything, the skin was a little bit tougher on that one.
Okay.
But equally definitely a nice tomato. Corps de Boeuf was next. And I opened one of these the other day, and I'm really quite chuffed with these, and I was quite surprised when I opened them, and hopefully this is going to be the same as the one I opened. There's I can't even see any seeds.
No.
It's a real fleshy, meaty, fleshy tomato, and it's got a lovely flavour, a really nice flavour. I'm only going to take a small piece of this as a try. Oh, there's a seed there, look. There's one seed.
So actually that'd probably make a really fantastic passata, wouldn't it?
They're really nice. I definitely would use those for tomato sauces and equally in a tomato sandwich, which I love a tomato sandwich. So that's the Corps de Boeuf. And last in the poll were my red cherry ones, which have always been my favourites, really. And these are, you can see that these are a real cherry. They're a very small tomato compared to some of the other cherry tomato varieties. Nice lot of seeds again. They're so yummy. Still my favourites. They do have more of a tang. They are a slightly more tangy tomato. And let's face it, everybody's taste buds are different. You know, what suits one person won't suit the other. So, yeah, still one of my favourites is the red cherry. So let's try the black cherry. These are very different to look at, aren't they? I think if you were having a tomato salad, they're a lovely, colourful accompaniment to all of the different colours that we've got.
Definitely.
Look a bit odd on their own, I feel. That's probably just me. But again, nice lot of seeds in there. Quite fruity. I would say they're quite a fruity flavour. I like them, but not as much as the red cherry. So I think that's all of the cherry tomato variety. Obviously we did the Corps de Boeuf because that was in the poll. But looking on the other ones we have now, in the more cooking tomatoes, along with the Corps de Boeuf, we have the San Marzano. So let's have a look at that one. Now there's a little bit of, I don't know whether you can see that, but there's seeds that hasn't formed quite properly inside. You can just see the seeds there. Haven't quite formed, but it's still edible. It's perfectly edible. Let's try a little bit. That's got a much stronger tomato flavour. Definitely more suitable for cooking, I would say. There's that one there. And as for the super sauce, these were the two that I harvested the other day because they were ready. They are a massive tomato, aren't they?
They are huge, aren't
yes,
they?
Yeah.
They really are.
I don't think on the packet, on the seed packet, it said you could get a jar of tomato sauce from each tomato. Well, I really don't think we've managed to do that. We haven't grown them big enough.
Depends how big your jar is, really.
Well, you could definitely put one in a tomato in a jar just on its own, I suppose. But let's have a little look because I haven't cut one of these through at all. Oh, look! Not that similar to the Corps de Boeuf. There not being particularly many seeds in there.
No.
And quite a meaty flesh again. Let's try that one. That's lovely.
Is it?
That's really nice. I would definitely say that's a really good cooking tomato. Put those there. So on to the standard tomatoes. We have, now let me get this right. These are the Ailsa Craig. So let's have a look at the Ailsa Craig first. That looks a lovely tomato, doesn't it?
It does.
Nice lot of seeds, nice lot of flesh. Nice flavour.
Yeah.
I think you can all tell that I just love tomatoes anyway. I'm not really going to have one that I don't like, I don't think.
See, when we bought this house, oh boy, that had it, you know. He was trying to tell us, Ailsa Craig.
He was.
That's why he wrote it on the greenhouse.
He wrote it in the greenhouse. It's still there today. So, these are the Shirley, aren't they? And they're the moneymaker, yes. So we'll go with a Shirley. This is quite an old variety, a bit like Moneymaker's quite an old variety, isn't it? Again, a nice lot of seeds. The Shirley is sweeter than the Ailsa Craig.
Right.
Nice, again, a nice flavour. And lastly, the Moneymaker. So we We have just always, I've grown moneymaker all of my growing life. And my dad grew them before me and whatever, so I will never stop growing moneymaker. Nice red, it's quite a dark red flesh inside there, isn't it? So in conclusion, I love them all. As I am a tomato lover, but I still would say that my favourite are the red cherry, closely followed by the honeycomb as the cherry tomato varieties. And for cooking, these super sauce are super. So. Oh, and we mustn't forget the outdoor ones, must we? Let's just do a quick test on those as well. Obviously, I can't do a comparison with the indoor for the Gardener's Delight. But that's the Gardener's Delight, quite a nice little... It's usually an in-between a cherry tomato and a larger tomato sort of size.
How do the skins compare to those that were grown indoor?
I would say they are slightly tougher.
Okay.
But I would equally say, if you don't know which variety of tomato you want to grow, Gardener's Delight is probably the best one to make a start with. It's got a nice tomato flavour. It's quite a prolific plant, so I would definitely say that. Now this, in comparison to the indoor moneymaker, is the outdoor one. But I have grown outdoor moneymaker much bigger than this. I think it's just probably this particular one. It doesn't look quite so appealing as the indoor one, but let's have a try of this one. Still tastes lovely.
Good.
I'd still put that in my tomato sandwich. And lastly, the outdoor red cherry. I just like, you can eat these like sweets, I feel. They're a really healthy snack. If anything, I would say the flavour is more intense from the outside ones to the indoor ones on the red cherry. That's quite a punchy little tang.
Best you stop watering the indoor ones, Mrs. W.
So what are we going to do with all these tomatoes? What can you do with all these tomatoes when you have a glut like we obviously are getting at the moment? Well, there's various things I've made, not this year, I haven't done it yet, but last year, and this is the last jar of it, some red tomato chutney.
It's been lovely, hasn't it?
Yes. And obviously there's the obligatory green tomato chutney that you tend to always get a few green ones at the end of the season. And the other thing that I did last year was I oven dried some tomatoes. Now these are the San Marzano tomatoes. I simply cut them in half, laid them on a baking tray, sprinkled a little bit of sugar and salt over and put them into a really low oven for 4 or 5 hours. And these ones I froze, and there was some other ones that I put into a jar with some olive oil. I prefer them frozen, so you can just take them out and add them to soups and casseroles, all sorts of things, pasta sauces, anything that you need. Or you can even just eat them as they are. They're a really nice little thing to have as an extra veg in the freezer.
But I got something for my birthday, didn't I, Mrs.
Oh,
W?
yes, you did. Yes, you were a very lucky man, and your daughter bought you a dehydrator this year. So this year we're going to be having a go at dehydrating some tomatoes too. So we'll see how that one goes. We'll let you know. We'll keep you posted. But there's so many things you can do with tomatoes. Soups, sauces, ketchup, pickles. Quite often they're an ingredient in chutneys. There's so many things you can do with them. But obviously, as I've been cutting all of these tomatoes up, and we've got quite a few, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to just make a pasta sauce. It's really easy. I just put in whatever I have basically in the fridge or what I need to be using up. And as you can guess, this time of year, there's definitely the courgettes. They always go into it. But it's a good way of getting vegetables into children as well. You know, if you just make a pasta sauce with all these veg, blitz it up, they'll never know it's there.
Now, Mrs. W, just in the interests of not so much science, but I want to know. Can you just get the scales, and I want to know how much that super sauce weighed?
Very interested to see. I'll take these out. Now this is imperial weights, not metric.
Proper weights.
I have eaten a little tiny segment from it, but let's put that in there. Oh, let's see. Okay. So that's an 8 ounce. It's about 9 ounces, so it's over half a pound, because 8 ounces is half a pound.
Now let's see by comparison how much the San Marzano weighed.
Okay. Pop that in. That was the 2 ounce, so.
Oh.
Ooh, 1.5 ounces.
1.5 ounces compared to 9 ounces.
Yeah, that's a big difference. That's how many of these San Marzano would you have to grow to get the say, equivalent in flesh of the super sauce? So all I've done for this really simple pasta sauce is I've chopped up the tomatoes. I had some tomatoes in the fridge which had been sitting there for a few days, which is starting to go soft, so I've used those and put the ones that we picked today into the fridge. You can freeze tomatoes whole if you haven't got time to do this right now. When you can pop them in the freezer, and when you take them out, the bonus of that is you can easily take the skins off. If you want to take the skins off, you can get them off easily. I don't personally worry about the skins. I just leave the skins on. So in here I have put a yellow courgette, a green courgette, a couple of aubergines, onion. I'm now about to put some garlic and a pepper, and these are all from our garden. Just absolutely everything from the garden. And I just put it in this big tray. So I've given it a nice mix around. Just going to sprinkle some salt. You obviously don't have to put salt, but I do like to put a little bit of salt over, and some pepper. You can always check the seasoning at the end and add more if you wish, if you feel you need some more. But I think that's probably quite good. And I've got some garlic here, one of our heads of garlic. I'm simply going to, if I don't cut my fingers off, because as Mr. W will tell you, I'm quite accident prone with things like that. I'm just going to pop the cloves in. I'm not going to bother particularly taking off the pink skins, just take the papery skins off. Just going to sprinkle the garlic over. And then I'm going to pop that into an oven and just gently cook it down, and we'll have a look when it's done. So I baked this in the oven for approximately an hour on 150 Celsius, and I've let it cool, so you can see everything is now quite nicely cooked down. So all I'm going to do now is pop it into a bowl. I'll just whiz it up in a couple of batches. So as you can see from that batch, I have made 4 containers. They're approximately 500 grams, possibly a little bit more than that in weight, of pasta sauce. Now this pasta sauce is packed full, as you saw, of beautiful fresh vegetables, and I'm going to put these in the freezer. They will keep in the freezer for probably up to a year if you don't use them that quickly, but we do. So with these I will make lasagnas, I will stir it through pasta. It will be in the freezer whenever we need it, and it's one of those very versatile things to have as a store cupboard extra. Something to preserve the flavours of the summer veg that we have in abundance at this time of year, so that we can eat it in the winter and remind ourselves.
What a wonderful pasta sauce that Mrs. W has made there. And you know, there are lots of Mrs. W's recipes, the way she does things and how we preserve things, all on our channel. So do seek out those playlists if you're not sure about how to do something, because there's a lot of advice on there from the lovely Mrs. W. Now, of course, there's so much more to come. We're only midway through August at this moment in time. There are many more tomatoes to come. Peppers, chilies, cucumbers, courgettes. They're just in abundance at the moment, aren't they? They really are. And we shall be producing videos over the next few months on how to grow things from seed to table. So if you're not already subscribed to our channel, then why not do so? And then you can see exactly how we grew our vegetables and then what we shall do with them to enjoy their amazing flavours. Now, we may have had a very wet late end to spring, and the start of summer was not that great too. But actually, everything has really caught up, and that's the amazing thing about nature, is what she does. Just because it wasn't quite ready to grow then, it's ready to grow now. And we have an absolute abundance. So the video that you'll see coming up next is our summer 2024 no dig garden. See how it's performed. Have a good look at that. Whatever you do, do have a great gardening week. Myself and Mrs. W, well, we shall see you on the next one.